Well, we're sitting here today in Masha's beautiful garden, and we are imagining uh, the situation when now the majority of us getting out of self-isolation for a certain period of time, and that kind of end of quarantine season, if you want. And it's very interesting to observe that people have got lots of new emotions they discovered in themselves during that period. There is something new feelings they discovered. So that self-isolation period for many people been a awakening call for something unknown, uncertain. Somebody enjoyed less, but it definitely was very interesting period. The question is what we can learn from that period and how we can benefit from these lessons and how we can encourage ourselves to implement something new, set up maybe new challenges for ourselves to improve our health and life in the future. So what are your vision on that, Masha?
Yes, thank you, Irina. Indeed, very interesting 2 months that we have lived of confinement or semi-confinement, very often self-imposed confinement, as we live it here in Switzerland. And yes, as you say, we can look at the problem always from the victim's perspective or from the creator's perspective. And as you and I choose to live a creator's perspective, so we can think of what are the lessons that we could actually learn from this situation. Good lesson of awareness for me to observe and to notice at what situation the fears are emerging, all kinds of fears, the reflection about the fears about the future, fear about the dear ones, about their health, about the children, what kind of future they're going to live. To observe the fears of the children and of the elderly, to see what we do with once we've observed. What do? Do we retract ourselves and just let it be? Do we take a proactive position and tell them, whatever? Arguments. All this has been very, very helpful for me to see what can I work at and how. Because, as you know, in theory we might know that yes, we do have fears, but just knowing about it isn't enough, right? If we want to process and transcend this and to be in a better state. Using tools as processing fears is very helpful, and I think very necessary, and even more necessary now than before. And I think most of the people would agree with me that during this situation they have been confronted with some fears that they didn't even know existed.
I am sure the majority people discovered some completely new feelings in themselves because they had more time and more chance to analyze what's going on inside of them and inside of their members of their family, because they just had more opportunities to do so.
More time, right?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
all those problems that we thought that we have and we're kind of handling are sometimes, just putting it under the carpet, pretending that we don't have them. In this time of confinement, we could really look at all those situations through the loop, right? Through the magnifying glass.
Yeah, exactly.
And see, actually, and as at each present moment we're confronted with the same type of problem, unless it is transcended or resolved.
Right.
So the situation have been repeating themselves, even we all have fears. What do we do about them?
Exactly.
How do we live with that? How do we feel
Yes.
our fears? Where do we feel them in the body? Because it's an emotion, you know.
Exactly.
Where do we feel contracted?
Yeah.
All of that is super, super interesting and very important to go beyond and live a happier life. So I think this situation has been a huge potential and a resource to look at closer, you know.
So if I understand correctly, what you basically saying, that situation highlighted lots of emotions, potential fears people have, and if we don't work on them, if we don't process them in the right way, so they will become like a extra toxicity in our body, in our mind, which will affect us in a longer term and a shorter term. And especially now people realize if there is another pandemic coming or another difficult situation, so we need to prepare ourselves for this time as well, and we need to learn lessons how we deal with these fears in order to feel healthy and be healthy.
It's not a question of if
Right.
there's going to be another pandemic.
It's going to be.
There are going to be certainly a lot of situations. If it's not going to be a pandemic, it's going to be something else.
Of course.
We're living in the times of big transformations. The whole system has to change. And so obviously the previous system doesn't want to let go that easily. So we are going to be imposed many different things: economical, social, energetical. The question is not if, the question is how and what to do.
Right.
It's a problem which has different facets, and it has to be looked holistically at. So from the physiological point of view, from the mental point of view, from the emotional point of view, from energetical point of view. Only then can we be strong enough, serene enough, whole enough to withstand the situation, to upgrade ourselves, to evolve. And this is a collective thing. So what we do for ourselves, we do for the collective.
Right.
So I think it's almost like an obligation now. It's not even a choice anymore. We do have, in order to evolve, to be able to upgrade ourselves.
So there are obviously lots of people now thinking going back to from isolation at the end of the quarantine period to their routine life, what it used to be routine life.
Trying to go.
They're trying to.
routine.
And again, so there is lots of fears, lots of, the thinking process taking place. And of course, the people thinking about their health, how they can protect themselves. So what your recommendations for the people in this situation, what they should focus on?
The most actual thing to me is to process their thoughts. To direct their thoughts in a direction where they can create something and not where they can be suppressed, be under control. Have a larger vision of all of it. If we have a bigger vision of the picture, we see that this is not the end of the world. This is just a vision, right? And for this, we need to direct our thoughts, which will trigger different emotions on physiological level, on emotional level, right? And to elevate our energy through meditation, through breathing, through physical exercises of a certain type, of reconnecting more with the nature. All of this, very important is what we intake into our body. So there are many ways to address this issue.
So obviously it is important. So we need to address our fears, we need to address our emotions, we need to learn to process our emotions in order to feel good about ourselves and about our future rather than the other way around. Is there any process For example, you offer in your practice to people to follow any certain protocol?
Yes, yes. The most important thing is to recognize in the beginning what we're dealing with. The fear, to recognize it. Then the second step would be to feel it.
Okay.
To take the time and to feel it in the body. Usually, all our emotions are detectable in the body by contractions, if they're negative, or what we call negative. Because when we have what we call positive emotions, like joy, love, contentment, we feel expansion, we're enjoying everything, we're able to see a bigger picture, right? When we have a fearful emotion, I don't know about you, but when I have a fearful emotion, I tend to kind of get inside, and I'm not able to see what's happening in the bigger world. I can, if I'm lucky and not overwhelmed, I can feel what's happening in my system. And this is the key, to get what is happening in our system and let ourselves the time to feel it.
Okay. Yeah.
Even though that it's uncomfortable, even though that the body can manifest itself by physical pains, but it's very important to recognize that this pain, this emotion is respected, that they're giving it time.
Okay.
And then to see how it evolves. Breathe. And usually this emotion starts to change. Either it gets worse or it gets better. If it gets worse, that means that we need more time. If it gets better, that means that maybe it hasn't been that serious, and that a little time of attention was enough.
Okay. So basically it's very individual, and you guiding individuals how to address that, so that everybody really need to open third eye and figure out what is going on inside, and pay attention to all details and all kind of small feelings in order to identify correctly and deal with it under your coaching.
Manifestations of the negative emotions are very different and very individual. The process is very similar for all of us. Is taking the time, sitting with it or lying with it, being attentive to it, taking time, and really acknowledging that this is something that needs to be processed and transformed. It's just a stuck energy, if you wish. So by processing it, we're getting this energy being unstuck, which can be used for other things. It's like a check in the bank.
Yeah.
That you can use, that you put and you can use when the time is right.
Masha, another question. Of course, as we said, the people now more aware that they need to be healthy. So what is actually health means for you personally?
Yes, for me, health is something which is not just a physical health, but it's an emotional health, a mental health, energetical health, because everything is very deeply interconnected. Having a global health is very important. However, I would like to also notice that for many people, having a good health is a main life goal, or one of the main life's goals. For me, it's a base. It's a base for something else. When you have shoes that are too tight and you're going for a long walk,
no, it's not a pleasant walk.
At some point they're gonna be so tight that you're gonna think just about that.
Yes.
Same thing is with health. Good health is when you don't feel it.
Exactly.
When you don't feel your body, when you get up in the morning, nothing hurts.
Yes. When
you go to bed in the evening, eventually have a little bit of physical fatigue, but not much, or the best thing, none. When you can function without feeling your body aching, your body urging, your body contracting, etc. So I believe that we are eternal beings. I believe that we're limitless beings. And having a good health is a base for exploring further, for exploring our extra sensitive capabilities, for exploring art, for exploring whatever is
there
appealing,
yes,
to you, you know.
So what you basically say, that health for you, it's a essential foundation in our life, which we all need to do something much more. So the health is not the goal of your life, it's a basis.
Yeah.
And we're not supposed to, as a human being, spend our life try to be healthy. We have to be healthy, and then we're living creative, interesting life to achieve lots of different things in the different directions, whatever you feel like. But in some cases where the people already struggle and have some issues, how quickly they can actually become healthy? Do you have a recipe?
I have a global recipe. Of course, health approach is something which is very individual, and everybody has to go through, you know, their path of living things. So pain and health issues are also great lessons for everyone. Even serious issues can be addressed very quickly. You know, if you change your way of eating, if you change your way of thinking, if you learn how to process your emotions, if you learn some breathing techniques, very important, very helpful. If you learn actually how to evacuate what doesn't need to stay in your body anymore, in your system anymore, emotional, mental, etc. Things can be fixed quite quickly.
What you just described, I think it's all kind of global detoxification process. So whatever the toxicity you may have, so we need to know how to get rid of. So it shouldn't stay, and it shouldn't definitely accumulate, because this is the nature of the toxin. They're not just passing through, they're actually sitting in our body and becoming bigger and bigger problem with the time, and slowing us down from inside out. And if we don't address, like you just were talking about, the fears and emotions, but also other physical toxins, chemical toxins, so any type of toxins, we are kind of really, you know, our machine is getting slower and slower with the time.